This is what we call the whale chart.
Sorry to get in your way.
No problem.
Jim, thank you very much. So we're going to have the appetizers and all that come back up in just a moment. Jim is going to be around, and I'll be around to answer any questions. But just to kind of frame this this talk as it relates to what we do at Sovereign Financial Group, both on a macro and a micro level. So on a macro level, one thing we're very proud about at Sovereign Financial, for those of you that were with us back in 2008 and 9, is that back in that big economic meltdown, the biggest pretty much in recent history for sure, we did not have one client that lost one penny in 2008 and 9, right? So now if you're an existing client of ours, you're saying to yourself, well, Chuck really needs to get some new material. If you're not a client of Sovereign right now, you're probably thinking, well, this guy's a complete liar. And I would be if I didn't finish that sentence, right? So the real sentence is, in 2008 and 9, we did not have one client that lost one penny in an account they needed within 5 years. And that speaks to the macro. So everything we do at Sovereign Financial revolves around and is framed by financial plan, which is determining how much money does a client need, does a household need in the short term versus the intermediate term versus long term. And if you make sure, and if you remain diligent, especially now when I think volatility is at an all-time high, and the potential for volatility, in our opinion, at Sovereign, come the election, is going to be through the roof, right? It's going to be binary, right? Either Trump will be in or Trump will be out. And in our in-house thinking is either way, we are really due for excessive volatility. And which way that's going to go, we don't know, right? So that's not telling you anything. I'm going to tell you it's going to be significant. I don't know which direction it's going to be in. But as long as you do your planning work properly, you take the time to do that planning work, and make sure you firewall the money that you need in the short term, really, who cares, right? Because even if you look at 2008 and 9, if your money was firewalled, the money that you needed in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 years is what we generally recommend, who cares? Because that other money that was firewalled in the long-term, more aggressive account, without question went down 20, 30, 40%. But if you waited 3, 4, 5 years, it came right back up. Okay, so that's truly important. So if you're a client of ours, you know this already, you've heard this a lot. If you're not a client of ours, that's something you really want to reflect upon. If you're not managing your overall finances that way, that's something that you really need to consider. We, of course, would be happy to speak with you about that. Just one thought on more of a micro level. As an investment philosophy at Sovereign, we're incredibly cheap, right? You know, we use a lot of Vanguard funds, iShares, and so on and so forth. The very few times that we do pay up for active managers are for managers like the folks at Mackay and other fixed income shops, right? So we believe that most markets, probably 70–80% of the markets out there, are very efficient, right? So for example, large cap US growth, right? What's a good example of an index that represents large cap US growth pretty well, right? The S&P 500. No one here, who's a client of ours anyway, has an actively managed large cap US growth fund. You have the cheapest exposure we could find to the S&P 500. We're not going to pay an active manager to pick the best 30 stocks out of those 500 because we don't think they can do it. But when you're looking at inefficient sectors like high yield bonds or corporate debt in general, or small cap stocks, we will use that. And I think it's very important to monitor costs for the investment strategies. We will pay up oftentimes for active managers in those inefficient sectors, but for the efficient sectors, we feel asset allocation and lower cost index funds are the way to go. And that's just the only comment I want to add on to Jim's commentary tonight. So again, I'll stick around, Jim will stick around to answer questions, but that really concludes the formal part of our presentation tonight. Does anyone have any other general group questions before we kind of bring the booze and food back out again? No? All right, Jim, you must have done a great job. Covered everything. Okay.
Don't forget to fill out those forms, right, Chuck?
Yes, Olga's going to be passing out those forms. We'll see if Jim gets as high as rating as he did last year. I'm sure he will. And also, kidding aside, on the back of those forms, we do ask if there's any topics you would all like to hear about. We really do look at all those forms the next day. And if there's any particular topic you want to hear about that we haven't covered in the past 12 months, please put it on there. We'd be happy to add it to the calendar for the next seminar year. Okay? But I'll thank you very much for coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.